Hi everybody, I'm Scott Butwell and welcome to my channel. And I want to talk about a topic today that I think a lot of different writers struggle with. And I asked one of my new subscribers, Donna Blevins, to suggest a topic. And this is what she suggested. This is a topic that my wife struggles with too. The topic is how to finish what you start. I want to share 6 tips on how to finish what you start. But first I want to say I think there's 2 main reasons why people struggle with finishing what they start. Number one, obviously there could be a lot of distractions in your home if that's where you're writing. There could be people, your own phone could be a distraction. You could have pets. There just could be, I have a cat over here that's been meowing as I'm trying to do this video. And then you might be able to hear meow, meow. And then the second thing is, I think a lot of times writers have mental and psychological hurdles. We're trying to get that story to be perfect. And so the more we try to get it perfect, we never get it done because we keep going back over and over and over to try to make it perfect. And so I want to share 6 tips that I got from myself and from talking to my wife on how to finish what you start. Tip number 1, block out distractions. I think there's 3 main ways you can cut down distractions. Number 1 is try to write at a time when less people are going to want to talk to you. So for example, I like to write sometimes from 10 o'clock at night to maybe about 1 in the morning. And at that time I can go, sometimes I go in the bathroom and nobody can actually disturb me because, hey, it's late and, they can kind of see that I don't want to be disturbed. And then the second one is to communicate clearly to people that you're writing and you don't want to be disturbed. So maybe you live with other people or you have people calling you, like in my case, I have my mom call me. And I actually tell her if she calls me between, say, 8 and 3 during a weekday when I'm not working, then I'm not going to answer the call because I'm really focused on writing. That's really important to not have interruptions. And then the third thing, I think it's helpful if you're not writing in a place that's a major hub in your home. So a lot of times I write at the kitchen table. Maybe that's not the best place to write because, people are kind of coming in and out of the kitchen to get something to eat. My son's unschooled. So those are 3 ways you can cut down distractions. Tip number 2, break writing into chunks. Anne Lamott calls this next writing tip the 1-inch picture frame. And basically what you're doing is you're breaking your story down into one little chunk, one 1-inch picture frame that you're working on. And that's helpful because you're not trying to conquer or try to work on the whole story at a time. You're just telling yourself, hey, I'm just going to work on this one little part. And I think that relieves some of the pressure that you might be feeling with the whole story that you're writing or the whole chapter of a book, if you're just working on one part. So you're just trying to say, hey, I can just get this one part done. That's a lot easier psychologically. Tip number 3, know your why. Know your why means that you're very clear on what your main idea of your story is. So if you're writing and you're not really clear on what it is that you want to convey to your reader, what it is that you want to say on your topic, then that's definitely going to be a part where you're kind of feeling lost, feeling confused, not really knowing where to go. So sometimes it's better just to take some time to think, to be really clear on your topic. Most of the time when I'm clear on what I want to say, I just wrote a story on a Amazon Prime story about 3 autistic people living together as adults. I think it's called As We See It. So I was really clear on what I wanted to say. So just writing about it, as long as I kind of hit that main point, that there's a lot you can learn about autistic adults and laugh at the same time, that I felt my story was going to be good. So just know your why. That's the main thing to make sure your story can go from beginning, middle to end. Tip number 4, run down the page. I think another main reason why people struggle with finishing what they start is they're caught up in the tyranny of perfectionism. And if that's kind of ringing a bell with you right now, you know what I'm talking about, where when you're writing, you're too concerned with everything being perfect. I like to do the opposite of just writing really, really fast. I think when you write fast, you run down the page naked, as Mary car says you're not really worried about perfection. You're just trying to get your ideas out because it's the first draft. You know, you can go back and revise stuff in the second draft. When you're kind of going really fast, running down the page, getting your ideas out, you're really getting into those more instinctive and more perceptual thoughts rather than your cognitive thoughts. So that's what I like about this approach too. And then the other thing I like to do to not get caught up in the tyranny of perfectionism, I just like to write for the first 2 or 3 minutes just to get all those crappy sentences out. We all write a lot of crappy sentences in the beginning, and I just kind of see that as normal. It's like part of my monkey brain, just get those thoughts out. And then, you know, if I can see that I feel like that's out of the way, then I'm ready to start writing. Tip number 5, wait for a strong emotion. I think there's 2 schools of thought on this one. I think Steve Pressfield says in his book, The War of Art, that writers should have a blue-collar attitude, that if you sit down every day to write at a certain time, then you have a muse. And the muse is recognizing that you're sitting down. And if you have that kind of professional work attitude that you're just going to write every single day, then your muse is up there noticing, and they're going to kind of guide you through the writing process. So Steve Pressfield would be a big advocate of just writing every single day at the same time. I think he says, put your ass where your heart wants to be. You know, we all want to write, and so your heart wants to write, so just put your ass in the chair and you'll start writing. But I do believe it is helpful at times, often, that when you're not really feeling it, just to wait a little while. You know, you can still be having your ass in the chair, but just wait 5, 10, 15 minutes, or maybe later in the day, and wait till you get that really feeling of emotion that you feel. And then that might be a better time where those words come out in more of a burst. So 2 schools of thought, you could pick either one, you would be right. Tip number 6, progress, not perfectionism. Last tip here, if you're one of those people who really struggles with perfectionism, I think this last tip is for you. It's about progress over perfection. In other words, what really is important, I've noticed this in my wife, is this: she just gets better at finishing something faster and sooner. She has a YouTube channel, so instead of taking a week to finish a video, she could finish it in 4 days. Instead of finishing 4 days, she can finish in 2 days. So you want to be able to see that progress that you're making to overcome this issue of perfectionism, this issue of finishing what you start. You know, so if it takes you 4 hours to write an article for medium.com, see if you can get it down to 3.5. So just try to make progress at getting better at finishing what you start. I hope these 6 tips help you to finish what you start. Just pick 1 or 2 and try it out, and hopefully you'll see some quicker times to the finish line. That's what this is all about, is trying to save you time by giving you a couple tips. Have a great day, everybody. Happy writing.